Hello, everybody. Welcome back to SWS Rewound. If you're new here, this is us looking back at the 20 different unstreamed sets from the Splat World Series that just happened recently. My name is Hammy. I'm joined here with Neptune, and we are going to be looking back at FTWin versus Final Weapon from Losers Bracket Round 2.
Yeah, so both these teams here obviously very talented to be able to qualify for an event this scale as well, but obviously the North American bias is in here, and we know FTWin, we know Kyo, we know Bursty, we know Biscuit, we know all these players, just very familiar with them. So I did a little bit of research on the Final Weapon players here as well, and I believe this is the comp that runs double Zipcaster. So we have a Zipcaster from an Octobrush one trick, and as well as a Stamper one trick as well. So if duty calls, we might be able to see double Zipcaster action here, Hammy.
Now, I will say, I did get the opportunity to commentate Final Weapon versus PXG on a previous episode of SWS Rewound, and I did see Miyamiya running a lot of the Nouveau ink brush rather than the Octobrush. They did actually have the hammer a lot of the time, which made for a lot of interesting plays and very aggressive play style. I mean, similar to what we would have seen from the double Zipcaster, but in a different manner, much more lethal if used correctly. And so, yeah, both these teams I'm familiar with because, again, I got to commentate Final Weapon already in FTWin. Everybody knows FTWin. But we're going to be going into Game 1 here, Humpback Pump Track on Splat Zones, as is a Zones-only tournament already. Looking at what these teams bringing, there's that ink brush, as I was saying. And, yeah, fairly standard comps, I think, from both sides. So there is that new Tri-Slosher coming in from Kyo.
Yeah, the new Tri-Slosher coming out on no less Humpback Pump Track here, you know. This is Slosher Haven here, and Tri-Slosher thrives off these angles and just the geometry of this map here. Just Kyo already getting a pick right here, trade 1-for-1 here. You can already see it is Scrap City trying to get back here.
Yeah, Scrap City only in 20 seconds of the match, but Final Weapon in the yellow in control of the map pretty heavily already, though we do see a nice far flank from Bursty, and that top side of the track does actually think get one over there on the side of the map, and FTWin breaking into mid, looking for this cap, do manage to get it with a couple of picks, but Final Weapon gonna be back fairly quickly. All four players already back alive, and here's that slider already wasting absolutely no time, but gets punished for it.
For sure. The punish game is absolutely insane at this type of level here. But one mistake, one little move, one little mess up here, you are dead here in the water. But it's going to be Final Weapon here, taking control of this zone here, trying to see if they can set up. Cooler is out, the hammer is online, and they're looking for a way to potentially get more picks to secure space in front of this zone here. And you can definitely see this ink brush is being a little rat right here and doing what an ink brush does best, constantly getting behind, causing people to turn around, take these angles here, and you can just see just how much contributions are going to be. But FTWin finds a way to strike back and maintain control of the zone here.
Yeah, they keep this zone, but still looking for a lead. Once again, Miyamiya on this brush does finally get the value they're looking for on this flank. FTWin, you know, they have the expertise to be able to understand that this brush is going to keep coming back constantly, but being alert the entire 5 minutes, you're going to slip up eventually. That brush is going to get in, so FTWin need to make sure that they're locking down those side routes. Looking for a way back in here is Kyo, but does go down. Bursty not able to help them out of that situation. 2 players down for FTWin. They're going to get pushed back here. Azu pushing up with the blaster, trying to look for a couple picks on the left side, opting not to overextend. They know the crabs are to come up from I think that was Bursty. I don't know, they have 2 crabs on the side of FTWin, so could either of them, but Final Weapon, 25 ticks left, and the zone will flip for FTWin.
For sure. It was just a very good stall situation where they allowed FTWin to burn their specials to be able to get back into zone here as well. And now you can see FTWin is slowly bleeding out here with the resources. Sure, the cooler was pop, but like, you're gonna have to do something here to get back zone. But Kyo is seeing if they can go back in here, but unfortunately gets splatted, and the zone is gonna be back in the control of FTWin with another direct here coming out from this S-Blast.
Final Weapon 3 down will give FTWin a way back in. Biscuit set up already with this pencil, just keeping players Final Weapon away, trying to shred some of the respawn armor, maybe find an unlucky soul who's in the wrong place at the wrong time. Right now, FTWin need to hold out here, but that slider from Tsukiyomi is not actually going to get any value. FTWin doing a great job at shutting down every slider we've seen this game, but just the pencil doing pencil things, getting a free pick, buying Final Weapon some time to get in here, and with less than half the game left, FTWin really looking for a lead switch here.
For sure. The Dread did buy a little bit of time by being able to reach slider zone here, but now the zone is flipped once again. Bursty is on the offense here, both looking at front and back at the same time. This is what happens when like we're fighting a brush comp. Just there's so many areas to cover, no less on a map that's as dynamic as Humpback here as well. And you can definitely see how it's slowly collapsing and the attention is being split. It's getting very difficult to be able to move forward here. Final Weapon is going through their penalty here, but the S-Boss going down is going to be something big here, Hammy.
Yeah, they're going to need something big. There's a minute left in this game. They once again getting the zone, but we've seen FTWin cap time and time again, but only getting all the way down to 50 and not able to continue. You know, even with the shutting down these sliders, they just can't get a sustainable push going. So Neptune, with less than a minute left, if you're FTWin, how are you capping the zone and getting a lead?
The only way I see it is a full wipeout here, and unfortunately, with so much space and areas you can just hide in on Humpback, it's going to be very difficult here, but Kyo already getting these picks right here, and immediately trying to fight and pull attention away from this zone here. You know, you got to be able to play around the zone to be able to keep control of it as well, and right now it's getting very difficult with all this paint coming out here. It's just going to be going into the last 20 seconds of the game here. FTWin definitely taking control of this zone, but the slider says otherwise, Hammy.
That slider has been a thorn at FTWin's side. As much as they've shut it down, it does do its job and get the zone when it's needed. 10 seconds left. FTWin are going to have to make an overtime push here. You know, they really don't want to lose this game because we're in loser's bracket. Losing this match puts them on match point to get knocked out of the tournament. A couple ticks remaining. They do have the numbers advantage, but the hammer from Miami is going to get a pick. They're going to come in from the back of the zone. Not a lot of time left for the lead. It tied, but no, they didn't get it. Final Weapon with the slider, and they managed to tie the score and use the slider cheese to take the zone, and they get that win from, like, I can't even think of, like, an analogy to describe how close that was.
Yeah, for sure. It was the zone was capped right under FTWin's zone control over there as well. It definitely started with the ink brush, you know. Like every time I saw the situation, oh, FTWin's got this, right? You know, they just got 2 picks, everyone is alive here, and then it was the brush flanking with the hammer, killing a kick on that zone right there, put so much pressure that it allowed just enough time there to stall to allow the reef slider to come back in here. You can see 3, 2, 1 neutral, and then the reef slider comes in to finish it up here. Just a very sequence of events that just barely allowed enough time for Final Weapon to be able to squeeze that last reef slider and just secure the game right there. That was really close.
Yeah, again, it's so, again, I'm not gonna, you know, pretend that this is live. Like, this is, you know, pre-recorded, or like these are previous matches, but I almost forgot who was gonna win. Like, that's how close that game was. I didn't think that a ink brush painting the back half of zone would be enough to stall that overtime to allow that slider to come in from Tsukiyomi. So that will put Final Weapon up in this match. Again, best of 3. So this is FTWin's last chance to stay in SWS, which sounds less dramatic after the fact because it already happened. But yes, we're going into Hagglefish Market Splat Zones, the tried and true map mode combination of the competitive Splatoon scene. Tsukiyomi making a switch over to the Decavitator, and Kyo back onto the Vanilla Slosher.
For sure. Going to decaf from Stamper here is going to be pretty interesting as well, because, you know, that bubble is definitely going to provide quite a bit of value, cause a big distraction here, make a lot of noise, and now we have the regular ink brush coming out here, opting for the Splat Bomb and Whale as well. So, you know, you might be able to be a bit more mobile and throw a bit more bombs here, but you can definitely see how this initial fight's turning out. It's just special for special, but no one's really gone down yet except for that one ink brush here. Commentators curse you, yeah, man.
Yeah, a nice pick from Bursty getting the brush with that bomb. You know, it's with how slow the crab moves, it can be pretty difficult to hit the fast-moving weapon. But already a lot of picks coming out from the side of FTWin. Final Weapon playing aggressively and overstepping their bounds, but still managed to keep the zone despite lacking the numbers. Finally, FTWin cap. and they did get Final Weapon a like decent lead, but we're less than a minute in. There's still plenty of time. It's not even that long till they get a lead here. A huge position here to be able to camp on the side. Bursty once again getting a crab. Have we seen Bursty not in a crab so far this set?
So every time there's a crab going out, they are pushing up in, and they're doing what FTWin does best, just running it down in their own spot. Look at how many picks is happening here. Just one more shot on that Sniper Rider, but unfortunately going to go down here. This is what FTWin does best here. Run it down, keep chaining those specials, keep up the pressure right here. Hio using these strikes here to extend a little bit and stay on the left-hand side. But now Bursty is going to be the one to call out at this brush here, but unfortunately goes down, getting called out. A flank from this brush here, it seems to be the aim in the neck every single time, and he gets another one, and might be able to get this jump here as well, Hammy. Oh my goodness.
No, there goes the roll on the jump. The two players FTWin in that corner will get those picks, keep them in a nice sturdy position here in mid, though plenty of penalty points to chip through, so gonna take a little bit of time here. This is really the point where FTWin have to decide, do they play defensive, do they play aggressive? What is the best way to keep away the monsters that are Final Weapon? The brush goes down, and so will the decav, buying a little bit of a stagger. FTWin getting through this penalty, looking for a potential KO here, Neptune.
Yeah, for sure. They're taking down their penalty here. Beautiful direct here from Sam here, using the sniper in a situation both close and at range here to be able to on the pressure here. 10 ticks left here to be able to cap this zone, but unfortunately the bombs and the Booyah have something else to say, and they managed to be able to keep it, but still neutral here, Hammy.
Azu with a big flank does get one on the side, is going to continue through their Mia as well, running through the zone. Just Final Weapon, a coordinated just push through, just kind of slip through the cracks and manage to get that zone and buy a little bit of space. But FTWin once again getting back in control. You know, we've seen this is a much different game than what game one was, because FTWin are constantly in control of the map and are just getting a lot more points, whereas Final Weapon, other than their initial push, haven't gotten anything else on the board yet.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely attribute that just to the entry specials. The beautiful pick by Hio here as well. Gonna try and extend this, I believe, with the strikes here. Yes, there they are. Gonna try and see if they can fight this Decavitator, but you do not want to go into that after getting hit by that 80 here. But beautiful pick for Biscuit there. A pencil coming down from the heavens to strike down the foes.
Yeah, pencil coming down from the skies like a piece of papers on the ground. FTWin looking to continue to hold this zone. They have some specials coming out. Here comes the Booyah from Sam, comboed with the crab from Bursty. Once again, holding the zone. Not a lot of penalty points left, but a couple of retaliation specials from Final Weapon make that a bubble, a killer whale, and also Booyah. But Sam doesn't care. Walking in, does trade out one. The bubble still stands and gives Final Weapon room to move in. 1 minute left and some change on the clock. FTWin have to regroup. They need to break back in here to make sure that Final Weapon can't get a holdout. But 3 down, Biscuit goes out. That's an essential wipe.
Yeah, for sure. That was a huge pick on Hio right there. I don't think he was sodaed as well, so there's going to be a little bit of a slow time to be able to get those strikes back on the zone here as well. But look at how far back FTWin is. They need to be able to fight for this zone here, but Hio goes down once again here. It's going to be a Hail Mary to get to this zone here. Booyah comes out to hopefully clear this plat right here, but how are you going to be able to deal with all these rat weapons, especially with how far back you are? The lead is going to be swapped here, but you can see the specials are getting rushed out onto the zone. There's just not enough time to fight and paint there, and that's going to be giving it to Final Weapon there at the end. Just FTWin's overly aggressive pushes and just consistently hammering those specials kept Final Weapon out, but they just needed one entry, one opening, one way in, and they just kept going through, and it was too difficult and staggered out the bucket so the strikes would never reach the zone in time for the penalty.
It's such an interesting scenario where you have Final Weapon, they do the opening push and they get, you know, a good amount of points on the board, and then they get locked out for 3.5 minutes essentially, and then do one good break-in and win off of that, because the sheer aggression and the just like their holdout in that push is like stunning. They managed to spawn camp a team as strong as FTWin, and they just needed to do it once, and they didn't ever have to worry about breaking in again. And it's the fact that they could also hold on long enough too. FTWin could have won that game so many times. The Final Weapon were just barely able to hold on.
for sure. It's just a very difficult situation. Just hold on there. It's so difficult when a lot of these weapons are very mobile and very, how do I say it? They have very fast kill times as well. And then the Ink Brush, the second it gets into that range here, oh, just say goodbye. Say goodbye. You're getting back to your spawn right there as well. The S Blast, if it directs you, say goodbye as well. That pen pinging you twice. Just unfortunate circumstances for FTWin right there, but they were in the driver's seat for majority of that. It's just the nature of Ink Brush comps. They just need to get in once, and it's just so difficult to get back in as well.
Yeah, now you were saying goodbye to all the players dying to these fast kill time weapons. That also means to say goodbye to FTWin, as this is a best of 3, so Final Weapon did take this set, knocking FTWin out of Splat World Series, coming in, I guess, like tied for 8th, if I can do math correctly. 9th? Yeah. But so anyway, that being said, that is all for us here for this episode of SWS Rewound. Congratulations to Final Weapon. FTWin, again, those are close games. A tied overtime, not even like the 1 point meme, and a long holdout in game 2. So huge games either way. Once again, I have been Hammy. I've been joined here with Neptune. Thank you all for watching. Again, there are more episodes of Splat World Series Rewound coming onto IPL's YouTube channel, so please check them all out. A lot of amazing games being played. So go watch the rest of them. There's probably more coming soon if you're watching this right when it comes out. And yeah, thank you all for watching.
Bye.